Welcome to Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto, the podcast dedicated to focusing on the truth that is always evolving within us and around us, where we explore the potentiality of truth as a highly esteemed value at a time in history when most people have more on their plates than any one human should. If you're new to me, full expression is my jam. Some words people have used to describe me range from speaker, trainer, coach, healer, writer, spiritual advisor, teacher, podcaster, and someone even called me their soul Sherpa once. I'm less concerned with titles or labels and more interested in results, change, and creating a world we want to, can, and are proud to live in. A kinder, gentler, more curious, collaborative, reverent world where people respect each other's backgrounds, experiences, and truths. They trust in themselves, in life, and recognize that we need each other. And they know how to cultivate healthy relationships to true power, not the very unhealthy kind of power our current culture is predicated upon. Speaking of our culture, there's a lot of noise and ignorance in our current culture, and this show aims to cut through that by exploring the truths of a diverse range of incredible voices. From authors, artists, creatives, and educators to activists, speakers, and those in various scientific and esoteric fields, our guests hail from cultures and countries all over the world. We post a new interview every Monday, and if you want to keep up with the show notes and quotes from our guests, you can follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth D'Alto. You can expect a wide range of topics when you tune into this show. Everything from health, communication, money, success, parenting, desire, sex, love, and spirituality, to making pivots and transitions in life, and topics related to psychology, storytelling, gender and race issues, emotional intelligence, activism, advocacy, and much more. A few disclaimers. No episode of the show is meant for everyone, and every episode is meant for whoever needs it on the right day at the right time. Not all guest views will reflect my own, and that's intentional. We don't learn, grow, heal, or improve by staying in our comfortable bubbles with all of our people who look, think, or live exactly how we do. If you love what you hear and find it useful and inspiring, the best way to show your appreciation is to share the episode, subscribe to the show, and leave us a rating and review wherever you listen in from. Thank you so much for being here with me. Here we go. This is episode number 287 of Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto. It is also the last and final segment, episode number 7, in the Journey into the Wild Soul series that I've been hosting here since the end of November. And I'm super excited to wrap it up here in the series with you all, and beginning next week to return with a brand new lineup of interviews to kick off the year 2019. Speaking of which, happy almost New Year, everybody. This is it. If you're listening here in real time, it is the last day of 2018. And before we dive into the episode, I have a quick and funny story for you. I got an email from someone last week asking me if I thought Power 2019 would help them. And they listed out a bunch of things they had going on and wanted to know what I thought. Now, obviously, I'm biased. I think Power 2019 can help anyone. Like, literally the way I feel about it is if you feel compelled, it can help you. Like, that's the answer, right? Like, you wouldn't feel compelled if it couldn't help you. But I was also struck because there's so much detail. There's so much information on the page for Power 2019. As well, we have an FAQ page that was literally a 14-page document. It's 5,000 words. I really went out of my way to think of every single last little question someone might possibly have if they were considering joining, since it is a year-long experience. It's a significant investment of time, effort, energy, attention, resources. So I responded to this person by saying that all the information that would help them to know whether or not Power 2019 could help them was over on the page at wildsoulmovement.com/Power 2019, and that the FAQs were at wildsoulmovement.com/Power-FAQ. And she responded by thanking me, telling me that she just read the page and she could see all the ways Power 2019 was definitely something she wanted to do, and it could definitely help her. And this is what was funny to me. She was a podcast listener, and she had been listening to me talk about it here on the show for weeks, literally, practically a month and a half, right? But had never visited the page, which made me wonder, how many of you are doing that also? Have you been listening to me go on and on about Power 2019 and not actually going over to the page? And I get it. Some of you are driving, maybe you're always in the car, or you're commuting, or your kids are always around, and maybe you've bookmarked it. But it was just funny to me that, like, whatever it's been, 7-8 weeks that I've been talking about this, that someone could be hearing me and then just like not going and looking at the page. So if that's you and you're curious about it also, like the woman who sent me that email, definitely make sure, like, put a little reminder in your phone, do something, get your booty over to wildsoulmovement.com/power2019 before January 2nd. That is when registration closes. And also just to help you, if you're still like, I don't know, let me just tell you who it's for. I wrote this list of descriptors with enormous confidence after running this experience in other forums for 5 years. So it's not just based on who's joined, but it's based on who gets the best and most immediate results. And so here's the deal. You don't have to resonate with everything on this list. Even if just one or two of them sound like you'd likely love and deeply benefit from joining Power. So here's the list. When you hear me say, get out of your head and into your body, your immediate reaction is, I need that. If you listen to this podcast and it really resonates with you, maybe also triggers you and makes you think sometimes. If you kind of feel like we'd be best friends if we met in real life, I get that from people all the time. It's not weird. I get it. If you listen to the show especially, you've possibly spent dozens to hundreds of digital hours with me online over the years. So it makes sense. If you have a feeling that you'd love spending a year inside my best, most amazingly curated growth, healing, and transformational container with other women who feel that way too. If you read the Wild Soul Woman Manifesto, if you've never read that, it's at wildsoulmovement.com/pledge. I also read it in the first episode of this series, and I have also read it on the podcast before. So if you've read or heard the Wild Soul Woman Manifesto before, and something in your body felt like, yes, I want that, even if you also felt a little intimidated by the bigness of all of it, you'd likely get a lot out of Power 2019. If you're aware that your seeking and consuming is not yielding the major or sustainable results you desire. And by seeking and consuming, I mean reading all the books, listening to all the podcasts, going to all the events or workshops, or downloading all the free guides and etc., or subscribing to everyone's friggin' email list. If you want to take bigger strides in 2019, make more progress and create what I call an uninterruptible momentum in your life, if you're done not accepting yourself in any way. So if you're tired of abandoning or rejecting your body, your brains, your skills, your abilities, your career, status, emotions, sensitivities, not honoring all the things that make you who you are, if you're tired of that and done with that, or put it another way, if you crave full self-acceptance, Power is for you. You don't want to feel bitter, hopeless, sad, disempowered, weak, distrustful, judgmental, anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, or resentful as often as you do if you're someone who experiences those things currently. And you're not interested in bypassing reality either. You want to be able to show up and do your part, but don't want to be so easily emotionally hijacked by what's going on in the world around you or by other people's pain, stress, or trauma. If you've been in an emotionally abusive relationship and are actively healing from it, coming home to yourself and working on having healthier relationships moving forward. If you want to feel vibrant, alive, connected, and joyful in your physical body, regardless of the shape, size, health, ability, or any old beliefs about attractiveness, sexuality, cultural standards, or needing to prove yourself in any way. If you're a little bit, or even a lot of it, I'm going to put this in air quotes, witchy, meaning words like priestess, mystic, goddess, divine feminine, Shakti, wild soul, untamed, or any other reference to women's inherent magic, mysteries, intuitive abilities, or psychic senses, really pique your interests and activate your curiosity. I'm not saying you have to identify with any of those things, but they pique your curiosity, or you get some kind of internal excitement when you hear them. You don't need to be coddled as you do this work. You're okay with truth talk and directness, even if that makes you uncomfortable. This is important because this is my way. So it's always backed with kindness, love, and compassion. But Wild Soul Women are not on the love and light or good vibes only brigade. We're into integrating all parts of life, including what's dark and messy, with love, always with love. You don't need a guide or teacher to be super serious all the time, because obviously that's not my style either. If you crave internal spaciousness, if you crave structure and a container for your growth, healing, and transformation, and you're down with Care Bear stares, I just added that in there for fun. So again, all the details, all the information are over at wildsoulmovement.com/power2019. The page is filled with everything. There's backstory on the program. There's full-length interviews with alumni. Like, if this experience is for you, if you give yourself like 15 to 20 minutes and really pour through everything on that page, which, by the way, again, if you're feeling curious or compelled and you don't do that, you're doing an enormous disservice to yourself, because you're directly ignoring your intuition or your inner curiosity. And you never know, like, you might get to the page, what might be on there for you might not even be something that compels you to join. There might be something else there for you. So again, if you're curious, make sure you check it out. And that's it. So registration closes for that on January 2nd. And when I say closes, I mean closes. I only open registration for this experience once a year now. It runs from January to December. So once we get going, we're going. And the opportunity does not come again until 2020. And listen, a year is a long time to wait to take action on whatever your soul is calling you to do. So again, if you haven't checked that out, it's wildsoulmovement.com/power2019. And now let's get into today's episode. As always, in this culture that we live in, which is very driven by social media now, we see memes floating around all about the new year, right? We are seeing the memes about how 2018 treated us, the what the fuck was that memes, the it's let it all go memes, the memes barking at us, telling us how to move into a new year. And let's not forget my favorite ones, the new year, new you. And what I love about a new year is that you get to choose. We all get to choose. It could be a compelling reason for a fresh start if you need or want one, but also maybe you don't need that. It could also just be another friggin' day of your life. Energetically, it might feel big, but that's because people make it big, right? This is a created, like the term industrial complex. I mean, it could be, you could call it the New Year's industrial complex, because for some people, it involves hosting or going to a party or getting all dressed up or, spending a whole bunch of money to go to an open bar or some big thing or an event or this or that or, whatever it is. For some people, it's more, your family has traditions. Maybe you get together with certain people, you cook, you do something. One of the traditions my family has that I love is we put a pot of water out on the counter in the morning on New Year's Eve. And the intention is that it would collect up any bad or negative energy from the year. And then at midnight, we throw it out the front door. That's our way of letting that shit go. We've done that since I was little and I love it. So, but again, you get to choose. Because unlike solstices or equinoxes or even fuller new moons, there aren't any major astrological or earth energies connected to this being New Year's Eve. So feel free to unhinge yourself from feeling like it needs to be a bigger deal than you personally feel like making it. I hope that makes sense. So what I want to focus on in this final episode of the Journey into the Wild Soul series is moving forward. How do we face forward and get moving in the direction we want to be going, regardless that it's a new year or not? How do we get on with creating, being, doing, having, and embodying the things that we want? Hopefully, if you're listening to this episode, you've been listening to the rest of the series, because in episode number 285, I talked about the differences between the desires of your ego and the desires of your soul. So if you haven't heard that, you don't have to stop and go listen to it right now, But I do suggest listening to that at some point soon after this, because that makes things easier to be in pursuit of the desires of our souls, not our egos. Because life is literally conspiring to help us fulfill and align with the desires of our souls. And that might sound like an abstract concept, but when you're working with the arc of power, which I discussed in episodes 284 and 285, it's much easier to access the desires of your soul. When you do your work around surrender and release, you're able to trust and be more receptive. And when you do those 4 things, then you have the internal space and access to what is more aligned and true for you. And that allows you to connect more to and feel what the desires of your soul actually are. Because life is always showing you. It's just a matter of being fluent in life's language and the way that life speaks to you. Part of which is your body's unique language of the senses and having the awareness to notice when you're being guided. And then, this is important, having the courage to follow the guidance, which again requires surrender, trust, and faith. So all of these are part of that arc of power. So again, you can see how the arc of power works together, constantly complementing itself and working within itself to help you be a force for expansion, for love, for good, and for healing. So I want to talk about energy in this episode because energy is everything. Having awareness around your energy and how you can affect it with relative ease and bring good energy to things and experiences makes a massive difference in your life. And there's a difference between wanting to bring better energy to things and going around saying good vibes only. Because wanting to bring better energy to a thing doesn't include or involve bypassing when the energy isn't good. It goes, or the energy is even bad or negative, however you might define those things. It goes, okay, I can uplift this situation. I can improve this by bringing better energy. I can perhaps be the better energy this situation needs to have a higher or a better outcome or a result or to just improve the experience, you know? You know, sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do. So if we bring better energy, it's literally going to be more enjoyable, even if overall it's not a very enjoyable thing. Does that make sense? So something I always like to remind people of whenever bringing up energy, which can feel like an abstract concept as well, is that it's pretty simple if you let it be. And here's the example I always use. You've undoubtedly had an experience of meeting someone and feeling that their energy is funky or off. There's just something about them that doesn't feel good or right to you to be around. And the same goes for places. You've probably walked into a room or an environment before that has felt heavy or yucky or even gross or instantly draining to you. Sometimes this happens to me when I travel. I've had a couple of places, literally, I've stepped off an airplane and been like, ugh, as soon as my foot hits the ground. Our minds will want to analyze these things and put reasons on them. And honestly, we don't need to do that. We just need to decide how we want to engage with the energy that doesn't feel good. Depending on the situation or experience, we may decide to get out or avoid it. We could also decide, like I mentioned briefly a few sentences ago, we can be the energy we want to feel, have, or experience in any given environment. So we could do what we came to do and not worry so much or allow the external energy or environment to impact us. This goes with people too. So this takes practice, will be easier for some than others, and also depending on the specifics of the situation. As well, to use the opposite example, you've probably also met people who feel amazing to be around, whose presence alone gives you an instant boost or has a calming effect or just makes you feel happy, safe, or like anything is possible. Same goes for environments. Some places just feel good to be in. They feel expansive or welcoming or like home. And the reason I suggest not analyzing or assigning meaning or detail about it when you feel these energies is because everything lands differently for everyone based on who we are, how we're built, what's going on with us, and our current frequency or vibration. So there are easy energy hygiene things that you could do to instantly raise your frequency and vibration, not necessarily for the purpose of manifesting, which is the context in which you hear people talk about those things a lot, but just simply to have a better lived and felt experience, no matter where you are or what's going on. So the saying here that's coming to mind for me is the saying that you've probably heard. Be the change you want to see in the world, which is attributed to Gandhi. Well, change starts with small, simple things. Often that phrase, be the change you want to see in the world, sounds like a big, massive thing, right? Like a whole overhaul, because the world needs a lot of change and a lot of healing. But change starts with little baby steps, little very incremental, simple things over time. And raising your energy a bit, if and when you need to, could literally be the change. That could be the change that you want to see in whatever is the world right in front of your face in any given moment. Everything doesn't have to be so intense or so huge. This is how we overwhelm ourselves. This is how we get stuck when we're looking at everything like we're standing at the bottom of a friggin' mountain that we need to climb, instead of just asking, what's the next best step? So if you're not familiar with energy hygiene practices, I'm talking about things like grounding yourself and cutting your cords. Very simple and effective. I have a short video over at wildsoulmovement.com/energy. It's free. Just head on over there. Get that resource. It's like an 8-minute video. It explains both of those things. So you can learn how to ground yourself and cut your cords. If you participated in the embodiment challenge we did this month, you also know embodiment. So just moving the body, getting into your body and getting out of your head is another way to instantly shift your energy, because it gets you present. Being present and being connected to your body's wisdom and intelligence is a certain way to shift your energy so that you can have a better experience no matter what's going on within or around you. Because when you're in your head, again, judgment occurs in the mind, in the head. So analyzing, detail, trying to figure things out, assessing, and then those things lead to worries, fears, doubts, stress, overwhelm. I was talking to a friend recently who's been living in Los Angeles for many years, and it's not where he's from, and he doesn't love being there, but he works in the entertainment industry, and he's just having a really hard time. He notices that when he feels so much happier whenever he leaves Los Angeles. So, he's in a pickle right now, trying to figure that out. And we can all relate to these experiences, right? So the thing that he was saying is, when he is in LA, he tends to be more analytical. He gets up in his mind, judging and analyzing and trying to figure this out and that and all these different things. But when he's not in Los Angeles, he can relax a little more. He can enjoy the environment. He could be present. He could be more of his true self. So that's something to consider for yourself as well. That's a shift in energy. Being able to be yourself. What are the environments in which you could be yourself? Who are the people with whom you can be yourself? You can bring your full self to the situation. That is one of the consistent notes I've gotten from women who have joined my programs and come to my events over the years, but, most recently, women who were signing up and joining Power 2019, someone even said the other day, like, I'm looking forward to your kind, loving, compassionate energy throughout the course of the experience. Because I think it was the second episode when I talked about deep committed practice, when I talked about energetic containers and alchemy, that the energy makes a difference. And I'm very intentional about the energy of any experience I run. You probably notice it also when you listen to the podcast, just listening to the show, just like being in the environment. It's kind of like being under, one of my mentors used to call it being under her wings, which I thought was a beautiful way to think of it. Even when you listen to the show and you're spending this time with me, you're under my wings for, the 30, 40, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, hour, whatever it is. And so of course, if you come into a container like Power 2019, you're essentially like you're under my wings for the whole year. I'm the mama bear. I'm that energy. That's my container. I cultivate that. I hold that. I curate that. You do that in your own environments. So that's what I'm saying for you here. For embodiment, during the embodiment challenge, one of the tools that we used was music. And the caveat, of course, is it doesn't always have the desired effect you're going for. So for example, we had some people experience some real pain and irritation on the day intended for joy. So this is how living an embodied life goes. This is how being tuned in with energy works. Whatever needs to come up and move through you will, in its own timing, not yours. Exactly like waves in the ocean. We can't control or dictate when the sets of waves will come or how big or intense they'll be. We could predict it, right? You could check the tides, you could see what's going on out there, but you can't dictate it. You can't control it. There's literally nothing that you can do to make the ocean behave how you want the ocean to behave. And life is similar in that there will always be things happening outside of your control. So this is why we surf, right? Physically in the ocean, metaphorically in your life. Life is a never-ending stream of experiences, much like waves in the ocean, that never fully cease. Like there's always going to be something, right? So everything I'm speaking about here points to one common theme: cultivating an internal environment of peace, connection, trust, love, courage, compassion, and acceptance that allows you to be with whatever comes up and not be so perturbed or impacted by it, because it's happening in the external world and your internal world is fortified. Your worth is solid. Your faith is solid. Your inner wisdom is strong, always reminding you that life wants to love you and serve you. So to look at everything through those glasses, those lenses. Life isn't trying to punish you or bury you, even when it feels that way. So you return to your breath, and you return to your body, and you return to your knowing that it's all a feedback loop of potential and possibility. And you have options about how to handle things and move forward. Even attuning yourself to consider what else might be possible. What's the full potential of a situation? Looking at things that way, or at least being curious enough to have the energy to move beyond what's right in front of your face and know, even if it's challenging, that something more and bigger and better, potentially even miraculous, is going to be possible on the other side of this thing. This opens your mind and heart to solutions and opportunities and experiences outside of the limited ways we're taught to think, consider, and react to life. Because it's an invitation for divine intervention, for guidance, and for your innate creativity and your innate genius to come through and serve. And what are we here for if not to serve? Each other, the planet, ourselves. You wouldn't be listening to this show if you didn't care about that. So, if you're going to ask yourself any guiding question going into 2019, ask yourself, what do you want to live in service of in 2019? My big answer, the one that always fuels my work and everything I create in the world, is always, I keep it big and abstract to leave room for potential and possibility. You've heard me say it a million times: for expansion, for love, for good, and for healing. My personal themes this year have kind of emerged. I didn't put a lot of thought into these. They kind of presented themselves to me over the last several months. And I just noticed the other day that what they feel like they are like the antidotes to all of the darker, more intense things I've been working through over the last few years and actively healing in my own life. So my personal themes are intimacy, receptivity, worthiness, and reciprocity. Reciprocity is something I'm really excited about because that's about even energetic exchange, right? It's not about keeping tabs or tit for tat, but whenever I say or think about reciprocity, I see this infinity symbol, like this flowing, active, moving infinity symbol. There's an active flow of energy back and forth and in and out, and it's that endless loop, right? It's an exchange that's always moving, that's always coming back to itself, that's always giving out. It's kind of like what you put out is what you get back, what you put in is what you get out, or however you want to think of it. But reciprocity, that just feels so nourishing to me because I'm a person who has lived the very great majority of my life overgiving. And I have a high tolerance and a high capacity for that. And so I have not always noticed when I've been drained or depleted until I'm like really, really drained or really, really depleted. And so something I've been working on the last several years is how to not ever even get to the point of burnout or that extreme depletion. And that's as a super sensitive, empathic person, which I know a lot of you can relate to. So those are my themes for this year. Intimacy, receptivity, worthiness, and reciprocity. I'm excited about those. So, a couple of things here. Again, just to remind you, Power 2019 closes, registration officially closes on January 2nd. We start on January 3rd. It is going to be an absolutely amazing experience. All the details are over at wildsoulmovement.com/power2019. The show notes for this episode could be found at untameyourself.com/287. And that's it. Happy New Year, everybody. As always, I am full of gratitude, respect, and appreciation for you for taking the time to listen to the show and engage however you do, whether that's taking what you hear and applying it to your life in some way, sharing it with friends and loved ones, leaving me comments on social media, sending me DMs, sharing the episodes in your stories, leaving us reviews on iTunes, and all of your effort, energy, and participation in this show, which has been going on 4 whole years now. You are felt, and it makes a difference. So thank you so much for that. May you be so blessed, loved, fulfilled, and taken care of in and by the year 2019, no matter who you are, where you're from, what your current circumstances are, whether you're feeling full and whole and worthy as you listen to me say these words right now, or if you're struggling and in pain and suffering in some way or anything else, like I used to say during the Sunday sermons, you are made from love, you are love, and you are loved. All right, y'all. I'll see you next year. I couldn't resist. Adios. You were saying something about that tall poppy syndrome. What is that, if anyone listening doesn't know?
So it's really, it's part of the vernacular in Australian society, and I think the United Kingdom. It's really that experience of being too tall, too much, too beautiful, too brilliant, too. And you need to get cut down to size, sugar. You need to get cut down to size. And it's very visceral, and it's, and I have days of things that I want to say about that because it is so extremely painful to experience it. And I think even more painful is that unconsciously we've contributed to it. So I think about this in the context of, I talk about we canonize people and then we demonize people, right? Ooh. So we do this kind of bell curve of, putting people up on a pedestal. And then when they start to zig when we want them to zag, we cut them down, we demonize them. And again, it's pretty unconscious. And I think it's I can feel it in my chest as I say, I think this is one of the biggest reasons people are afraid of success, because they have, ancient recollections of having this happen to them, and they've seen where they've participated in it too.